Would you look at this glorious headline? Oh, this is gonna fail so badly and it's gonna be great. The Kamala Harris Rehab project is underway. Clearly, someone is digging into Hunter Biden's stash again, allegedly. Gentlemen, we can't rebuild her. We don't have the technology. Yeah, they say one man's loss is another man's gain, or in this case, one old bastard's loss is, You can't really call Kamala Harris a woman, really. At the very least, she's part hyena, considering she cackles maniacally at everything like a poorly programmed cyborg. But anyway, there are still a lot of Democrats who see Vice President Kamala Harris as the future of the Democratic Party. Cue the endless cackles of laughter there. As delusional as that sounds, it only shows that you do not think like a national Democrat. And thank God for that. Well, thank you, we try. For many Democrats, the package Harris comes in is almost too irresistible. Black, Asian, female, and far left. Harris says all the right things and checks all the right boxes. Yeah, except for competence and a coherent worldview. Not to mention at least half the men in DC can finger her out of a lineup via the genitals. Allegedly. But from her first moves as vice president, Harris has been the biggest embarrassment of any high office holder in recent history. Her office, described in a Politico piece as dysfunctional, has seen incredible turnover. When racism was blamed for her description of dysfunctional in the vice president's office, one former Harris aide said, "White supremacy does not explain the internal psychodramas causing Harris's staff and her White House colleagues to betray her in public repeatedly." No, but a lack thereof might explain why it's so dysfunctional. I couldn't help myself there. All joking aside, though, somewhat, hasn't most of the turnover been, women? That explains a lot, and something no one is gonna touch with a 10-foot pole, let's be honest. But secondly, I've long thought about this because there's been so many leaks, shall we say, that she's a horrible person, she doesn't ever do any work, and when she isn't sufficiently briefed on something and she looks an idiot, it's not her fault ever. So she lashes out at the aides. Which makes sense, by the way. If you got promoted despite the fact you never did any fucking work, why the hell would you think you have to start now? I wouldn't be surprised if most of the people who've worked for her in the past hate her guts and decide that if they're gonna jump ship, they're gonna piss all over it before they do. Certainly, part of Harris's problem is the White House staff's pathological desire to destroy anyone who could challenge Joe Biden in 2024. But in truth, Harris has made their task extraordinarily easy. Reason.com points to bungled interviews, unhappy staffers, flip-flops, a failure to own any issue or commit to anything, a lack of a clear message, or overarching reason for being. So a textbook politician then. Related, the morning briefing, President Harris really stinks at her job. We should probably read that one at some point. But now that the midterms are out of the way, Harris supporters in Washington are trying to create an artificial boomlet, a word that I've never read, to begin repairing the extensive damage to her public persona that makes any talk of a Harris presidential run a bad joke. Oh Lord, please do try. I mean, she sucked as a presidential candidate. Vice president, she's even worse. Why the hell would she run for president again now? Politico, now that it looks like he's running, she's really being treated like what I would call a normal vice president, said one former Harris aide who spoke on the condition of anonymity. I wonder why. There's just less attention, which I think actually frees her up to focus on excelling and not have to worry about the relentless scrutiny. That is such a crock of shit. Oh no, trust us, if you stop paying attention to her, she's a totally competent VP. It's only when you do pay attention to her that she derails into a dumpster fire clusterfuck. Who the hell is going to believe that? Whether Harris can take advantage of being freed up and how that would play out, insert slave joke over here, are the main questions facing the vice president and her staff heading into 2023. Questions that could go a long way in determining her and President Joe Biden's future. Dude, these two, Dumb and Dumber over here, these are the best the Democrats have to offer, is it? I don't even need a punchline for that one, do I? Remember when Biden put Harris in charge of fixing the border in September of 2022? She claimed the border was secure, indicating that her mission was accomplished. Harris has made no statements since then about the border. Yeah, because under President Trump, the border was the most secure, probably in, I would say, most people's lifetimes. Then this administration comes in, undoes all of that work, record-setting people across the border, and it's totally secure, says the DHS. And yet she makes no effort to go see her supposedly great handiwork. Fantastic optics, that one. Oh, and just by the way, America now has thousands of destitutes flooding into the nation. Europe has thousands of destitutes flooding into its nations. You'd almost think it was by design now, wouldn't you? The Harris Rehab project will not include any high-profile tasks assigned to her by Biden. Instead, her work will be to take Biden's message to the faithful via carefully stage-managed appearances with West Wing-authored speeches. Yes, except both cases, they suck at that. Harris partisans are trying to put the best face on the demotion. One of the challenges that this administration had is I don't think that the White House writ large fully understood what it meant to have a historic first vice president. Yeah, neither do you, because you've never had one. One White House ally said, "You have to put her out front more on some things because it looks different, and it is different, right?" So it's Biden's fault that Harris is the most unpopular vice president in history. Well, yeah, kind of. I mean, he picked her, supposedly, or at least somebody did anyway. Also, you have to put her out front more on some things because it looks different, and it is different. Why? She wasn't picked for her competence or any skill set. She was picked purely for her born with assets, her genitals, and the melanin count. So why on earth would you think giving her more things that has nothing to do with her capability to execute them well and think this was not going to escalate into a total shit show? Leftism, making white supremacy look viable since affirmative action. Reason, yet Harris is far from an overwhelmingly popular figure, that's putting it mildly. The same Harvard-Harris poll put her national favorability rating at 40%, while 50% viewed her unfavorably. Do any of you guys believe either of those numbers? Because I'm rather skeptical over here. A Los Angeles Times analysis of national opinion polls said that as of October 2022, Harris was at a 39% favorability and a 53% unfavorable. Harris does especially poor among independent voting blocs, including older voters, only 33% favorable, and independent voters, 30% favorable. Moreover, she's seen a notable drop in favorability from when she first took office, down 14 percentage points, according to the Los Angeles Times. Harris's vice presidency has been marked by the same fanfare and then fizzle as a presidential campaign. She got the job, but she couldn't make the case for herself. Welcome to the public sector. Harris supporters will spend the next few months trying to save her job as vice president. If Biden's numbers are still underwater at the end of the summer, a change may be seriously discussed. In the meantime, any rehab project for Harris will run into the reality that she's not popular, she's incompetent, and she has nothing to recommend her to the American people except her sex and race. And what do you know? Those assets do not translate into competence. But you know whose race and sex does translate into competence?
Yes, he is the great white hope. Not to be called that, it's a reality.
I gotta check before this gets too spicy. That is all for today. Thank you for watching, and I will see you all next time.